Esteemed judges, most of us presenting and watching today are from a developing country. That means that there's a 1 in 10 chance that the next pill we take is counterfeit. Imagine already struggling to afford healthcare in the first place, then suffering complications like poisoning and prolonged illness. This is exactly what Zulig Pharma wants to solve. And we at Team Ateneo are so invested in this mission, which is why we're so excited to present the Triple I strategy. A good afternoon to all. Now, Zulig's core business is in distribution, and they truly deliver from start to finish, with a vast network of the top 20 pharma manufacturers as suppliers and 22,000 hospitals and 53,000 pharmacies as customers across 13 markets in Asia. Zulig's reach is unparalleled. But their strength lies not only in their reliability and their extensive distribution network. It's their unwavering focus on making healthcare accessible that has allowed them to win in their markets. Moreover, Zulig recognizes that the healthcare industry is an ecosystem. It's not just doctor and patient, but hospitals too, and government offices, insurance providers, manufacturers, drugstores, and so much more. So beyond their core business, Zulig offers end-to-end solutions to more stakeholders. Because of this, they also have strong capabilities in technology development and data analytics. Now, blockchain is this exciting new technology that can connect the entire system with transparency and trust, freedom from human error, and security and automation. Zulig used this to create Easy Tracker, a tool to track a product's movement throughout the supply chain with utmost transparency and traceability. To use it is simple. The manufacturer just places a label on the product and scans it through Zulig's mobile app to create a record. Then it's again scanned at the warehouse to track its status. And then when it finally reaches the hospital or the patient, they can use the mobile app to scan and verify the product's authenticity. Easy Tracker ensures that every medicine taken is genuine and no healthcare provider has to suffer supply chain delays or losses, and more importantly, that no patient suffers unnecessary sickness. However, this solution can only work effectively if critical mass can be achieved. This is the point at which the system has enough participants or usage for it to be self-sustaining. And just as a longer blockchain is more secure, the more we involve and connect, the stronger our healthcare ecosystem becomes. Moreover, we need to be the first to reach that critical mass, as it really only makes sense for a country to have one universal tracking system. Otherwise, tracking becomes more burdensome than convenient. Now, there are exciting opportunities for us to reach that critical mass. We can develop more use cases to reinforce the integrity of the supply chain. We can also capitalize on consumer trends, where consumers demand more access to their healthcare records and have more say on their healthcare and treatment. And we can tap into developing markets in Southeast Asia where people need this solution the most. With that, we have two goals. First, to identify and understand the best market to launch our solution in. And second, to innovate the Easy Tracker to become more relevant and value-adding. Thus, our problem statement is, how can Zulig leverage its network and technology to optimize the Southeast Asian healthcare system? To further unpack this, let's talk to Louis.
To achieve critical mass, we will consider two main aspects. Market, tackling how we can increase the people Zulig serves, and product, tackling how we can increase use cases for Zulig. First, let's talk about market. To address the market best, let us first dive into an overview of healthcare in Southeast Asia. According to WHO, Southeast Asians are very reliant in the private sector to afford their healthcare needs. This can be easily seen through the high out-of-pocket spending percentage for the region, wherein it comprises of 40% of the current healthcare spending of Southeast Asians versus the 15% to 20% goal for the universal healthcare. However, this state is not beneficial for people as high OOPs are further exacerbated by general living conditions, wherein 120 million are living in poverty. More importantly, WHO emphasizes urban poor are the ones most in need of access to proper healthcare. Thus, healthcare may be unaffordable for them. Given their financial capabilities, they can only rely on public healthcare systems, which are dependent on national governments. Governments are key stakeholders who lead the distribution of public healthcare to every country. However, they themselves face challenges in enabling the system to reach everyone. Moreover, we mentioned that it is crucial to be the first company to reach critical mass and become the one universal tracking system for the country's supply chain. While private partnerships might be easier, partnership with the government, who has more control over overseas health system, can offer us the most speed. Thus, the best way for Zillig to penetrate Southeast Asian markets is through private and public partnerships. Given this, We need to choose the best market for Zulig. Even if Zulig can and must serve all C markets, it must focus initially on one market to ensure the quality of our solutions and operations to achieve the impact that we want. After this, Zulig can consider launching it on a wider scale as well. From this, we determine potential markets based on two qualities: Zulig's presence in the market and the need for its solutions. We then evaluated them on four dimensions: transparency of healthcare systems, tech capability based on smartphone adoption rate, color representing the degree of political support, and market size. Overall, we see Indonesia as the biggest serviceable market and has a significant need given their low healthcare transparency. It also ideal given that there is mid-level government support on providing solutions to public affairs. Thus, this is the perfect launchpad for Zulig's Easy Tracker, especially since Indonesia currently has 20,000 plus public healthcare institutions, which serve an average of 1,500 patients per day. Given this, we can explore how Zulig can address fundamental issues of the Indonesian healthcare system. First is limited access to healthcare, wherein approximately 13% of the Indonesian population, or 35 million Indonesians, do not have access to healthcare. Second is the 34% high out-of-pocket spending percentage, despite 84% of the population being covered by its national health insurance. And lastly is the fragmentation of Indonesia's healthcare system, as it suffers from structural challenges such as unsteady drug supply and inequity of care. Through Zulig's end-to-end logistics and blockchain technology, it can enable faster supply deliveries and data transparency on the entire supply chain. This will increase accessibility to drugs, improve quality, reducing counterfeit drugs, enabling steady medical supply across cities, and achieve a more centralized logistics system. We now look into the product aspect. Zulig can attain its critical mass by increasing its use cases. For this, we have two options: cold chain logistics and product recall, which are evaluated based on stakeholder involvement and the solution's potential being a preventive or reactive solution. Ultimately, we choose cold chain logistics as Zulig's new use case moving forward. But why? First, on stakeholder involvement. Cold chain logistics covers upstream involvement, as Zulig only needs to work with other logistic companies to implement the cold chain technology. On the other hand, product recalls involve both upstream and downstream involvement, such as coordinating with consumers, pharmaceuticals, health institutions, and logistic companies to implement the solution, making it more challenging to do. Second, on solutions potential. We see that the cold chain is more impactful as it is a preventive solution compared to a reactive solution like product recall. For instance, in a vaccine supply chain, spoilage can occur. Product recalls do not lower the risk of spoilage, but only mitigates it upon occurrence. On the other hand, cold chain logistics reduces risk instantly by monitoring temperatures and catching errors, leading to lesser waste and lower costs. Thus, cold chain logistics is the better option for Zulig to add in its current services.
Now, beyond adding use cases for Zulig, we want Zulig to do what it does best: disrupt the industry. By capitalizing on the customer trends of them becoming more active and involved in their healthcare and wanting more visibility on their medical info. Now, based on these new customer demands, as well as new health technology trends predicted by CB Insights for 2027 to 2030, we saw five options. We evaluated these opportunities based on market size and market momentum, which considers market growth rate, macroeconomic conditions, and investors' interest. And we saw two opportunities that had the highest potential. The first is the standardization, digitalization, and centralization of health records. With this, your health record can easily be made available to multiple healthcare points like the government and hospitals. Again, this is important because healthcare is an interdependent ecosystem. Now, why not predictive healthcare using AI, even though it's high potential and in the priority zone? We opted not to pursue this because of the huge risk of misdiagnosis, and we don't have the competencies yet in treatment. Instead, we chose to pursue a second opportunity, which is health insights. Because we would already have the data from health records, combined with our strength in data analytics, we can generate insights to offer to interested parties like the government or private healthcare companies. So to summarize our analysis, to gain critical mass, we have three main insights leading to three key initiatives. On the market side, we saw that Southeast Asia, and Indonesia in particular, is reliant on public healthcare. Hence, the need to lay down infrastructure for a public-private partnership for our supply chain solution. Now, on the product side, we identified cold chain as the most impactful and feasible new use case. So we are integrating cold chain tracking into the Easy Tracker. Third, to offer more value and connect to more stakeholders, we identify digitalization and centralization of health records, as well as AI-generated health insights as the best opportunities. Hence, we are innovating by launching health informatics. Let me hand you now over to Darian to share our big and exciting Triple I strategy.
Our first initiative is laying down the infrastructure of the PPP, where we use tailor-fitted Easy Tracker for the Indonesian government to have visibility on the healthcare supply chain, like delivery of medicines and medical devices for public hospitals. In this phase, Zulig would set up necessary foundations and networks for our strategies. How do you go about this? First, we create a cross-functional business unit focusing on government affairs. Second, we enter into negotiations with the government. And third, we co-develop a white label platform of our Easy Tracker tailor-fitted to the government. Here, we also seek to register the companies opting in this program from distribution to government health institutions. Where and when do we implement this? To be realistic, we plan to roll this out first in Jakarta, Indonesia, reaching significant scale by end of year of 2025. At that point, we will be reassessing whether our solution is viable and scalable to other Indonesian cities. Here's a sample org chart showing the business units involved for our PPP with the Indonesian government. Now, let's look at the synergies and the contract terms for the PPP. Zulig and the Indonesian government have a common goal of improving healthcare. Zulig will provide the technology to the government, giving the country increased quality of health with less counterfeit and providing a more reliable supply of medicines. In return, the government will provide us the avenue to reach critical mass by implementing our solution in public hospitals and offices and providing subsidies for tech development.
Now for the key benefits on our first part of our strategy. We foresee that Indonesians will now have more access to preventive care and enable quicker treatments. Moreover, drug counterfeits will be reduced in the public healthcare system. For risks, first, there is a potential that Zulig may receive a lower government budget than the projected PPP. To mitigate this, we can raise debt to finance our operations in Indonesia. Second, registration of public healthcare institutions may be delayed. To address this, Zulig must coordinate with the government to push for adoption or can form partnerships with other government agencies.
Now that we secured our PPP, it's time to execute. As mentioned, the first and core technology we are offering is the already existing Easy Tracker solution. We'll first expand increasing data storage for blockchain in anticipation of large data sets from hospitals coming in. Second, we pilot test this solution with select partners. Third, to add more use cases to move towards critical mass, we're excited to integrate cold chain logistics to the platform. We will use the current Easy Tracker platform and integrate cold chain tracking into it. For cold chain, the delivery container is equipped with a sensor that monitors the temperature and other environmental conditions. If it detects poor conditions, the manufacturer, distributor, and receiver will immediately be informed to avoid any delay in replacing the product.
For our second part of our strategy, two main stakeholders benefit. First, logistic companies can benefit from the cold chain technology, leading to time and cost savings for deliveries and enabling them to gain better regulatory compliance. Second, hospitals will also receive time and cost savings given medical supplies are safely delivered, thus reducing medical wastage and accidents. For our risk, there can be lower adoption among cold chain companies. To mitigate this, Zulig can publish case studies showcasing performance improvements for adopters and benefits from their clients.
Now that we have integrated more use cases into Easy Tracker, we will now innovate with health informatics, which is composed of two parts, health records and health insights. Crucial steps to take are developing the database, rolling it out to stakeholders, and launching insights. The first part is health records. We're creating a customer-facing platform to digitalize and standardize health records. Patients will input data on the health records app, and it will be stored into the blockchain. Then it can be quickly sent to any touchpoint with consent whenever they need it. To implement this, we will first develop the health database, which would entail hiring a data engineer to create the infrastructure. Second, the government will have the main responsibility to ensure usership, as they're the ones with the access to the population and public institutions we're targeting. First, The company will need to do educational marketing efforts explaining the value of the platform for each stakeholder. Fourth, our clients will be the one to reach out to the patients to adapt the use of this app. And what's more exciting is that now that we have amassed all that data, we can offer health insights. Through AI big data analysis, we can identify trends and opportunities and threats in the healthcare system. Then our hired consultants will craft insights and create reports. The government can use this data for policy development, all for free in pursuit of our PPP and social mission. However, we will offer it as a freemium paid service to private institutions like pharma companies for database product development.
And for the last part of our strategy, we foresee that institutions will have more visibility and lead to more data-driven insights. Also, patients can now own their records and have standardized information that can be utilized both by them and hospitals all across Jakarta. For risks, it is possible for a blockchain capacity to be overwhelmed as more data is added into the system. To address this, Zuni can consider using offshore data centers and sidechains. Moreover, institutions may be hesitant to partner with us given the subscription fees. To mitigate this, Zuni can change its revenue model to one-time payments.
Now, how do all these plans fit together? In the current year, we'll be executing the partnership with the Indonesian government, expected to be approved in Q1 of 2024, after which we roll out the registration of healthcare institutions. Next, we develop both the Easy Tracker and health informatics together. More efforts are needed on the health informatics, as Easy Tracker is simply a white label of an already existing platform. Now, how do we actually see this materializing?
Thanks, Darren. After seeing the benefits of our stakeholders, let's now look at the financial impact of our strategy to the company. With our efforts, we see three new potential sources of cash inflow. First, the subsidy from the Indonesian government. Second, the subscription and sensor fees for our logistics services. And lastly, subscription fees from health records and informatics. Let's go through them one by one. First is the subsidy from the Indonesian government. Just a subsidy of at least $2.5 million is already enough for us to operationalize our initiatives. Now, why do you think we'll be able to get this subsidy from the government? This is for two main reasons. First is the value that we provide, which is we make healthcare more accessible. And second is the government's willing to spend. And they actually allocated $13.6 billion to support development initiatives towards inclusivity. Second is our revenues from our logistics services. By charging a monthly subscription fee of $60 for healthcare logistics and $75 for cold chain companies and earning $250 for each sensor, we are expecting to reach over $765,000 in revenues in 2025. Lastly is our revenues from health reports and informatics. By charging clients an annual subscription fee of $100 for basic reports and $15,000 for AI-generated health informatics, we are expecting to make over $700,000 in 2025. Now let's go through our costs. Our costs are mainly for app and website development, hiring, and building other tech capabilities, allowing us to see positive cash flows except for year one. Now you might ask, is this even sustainable? Yes, it is. Our initiatives are highly scalable as they mainly only involve upfront costs. We expect revenue to continuously increase as we reach more stakeholders.
Dear panel, allow me now to summarize how Zulig Pharma can reinforce the chain of goodness in the healthcare ecosystem by involving everyone, innovating the product, and getting it to the people who need it the most. On the market side, we saw the need to partner with the government with whom we can mutually benefit. Speed is crucial, and compared to partnering with private entities, the government has the most jurisdiction to implement a solution all across the board. Based on market size and conditions, we identified Indonesia as the best launchpad for the Easy Tracker. Thus, our first initiative is to forge a partnership with the Indonesian government to roll out the Easy Tracker. Now, on the product side, we will increase use cases by integrating cold chain storage tracking into the Easy Tracker because this solution is preventative rather than reactive, saving everyone time and costs. Finally, to innovate and make the ecosystem even more interconnected, we leverage on customer trends of being more involved in their healthcare, as well as Zulig's competency in data analytics. We launched Health Insights, which digitalizes patients' medical records, making it secure and easy to share. And finally, we craft insights to move the whole healthcare industry to a more inclusive future. Again, we are Team Ateneo de Manila University. Thank you so much, and we are now happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Team Ateneo, for your presentation. Let's put the timer on 50 minutes. Judges, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your questions.
Maybe I can go first. Could you go to this slide that you did the analysis on the markets you were going to look at, please? Okay. Can you just talk me through why you went with Indonesia? Because looking at this, South Korea looks like it ticks all the boxes. It's already a serialized market, so the government's kind of heavily involved. You're showing it green here as well, which I assume is good. So why did you not choose South Korea?
Overall, we chose Indonesia because this is the market that we believe Zulig can create the most impact as a company, not only in revenues, but in social impact as well. In South Korea, it is already not considered as a third world developing country. It's already one of the leading economies in Asia. And we foresee that Zulig will become only a minor player, even if there is a big market in here and the government is really supportive. Thus, if Zulig wants to have the biggest share both in impact and both in revenues, we believe that going for a third world country like Indonesia is the most beneficial action for us.
And to add to that, we acknowledge that actually most of the countries in Southeast Asia are developing countries. So it's in our best interest to be able to test as early as now to see if the solution actually works in a developing country so that we can scale it further later on.
Thank you. Just maybe if you can jump to the partnership with the government, Indonesian government. You mentioned, I think, about monetizing the data to pharma manufacturers. Did you consider any kind of data privacy risks or how that could be perceived if potentially an individual realized that the government and an entity was monetizing the data? That is slide here.
So we did consider this risk, but for the insights, we are utilizing blockchain and its advantage being anonymous. So we're not revealing any specific names or tying any specific data to any specific people, but these are just general trends, which actually also serve the best interest of the people because the government can use it to make better policies and private companies can use it to make better healthcare solutions.
Okay, thank you. And maybe just one last question from my side. Could you go to the revenue, the financials? Okay. Maybe talk me through the for me, looking at this, the development for the informatics is quite substantial with the return on revenue not particularly healthy looking. Certainly, well, it takes 3 years to get a return, and we're going to have to spend something in the region of 3 million to get to that point. What's the kind of the thinking around the cost? Is this all purely kind of development headcounts, or how is that broken down?
Sure. So in terms of the cost involved for developing the healthcare informatics, we understand that the first few years are quite cash flow negative. That's mainly because there's a lot of investment involved in looking into this space. So the main costs that we're looking into are the development and the maintenance of the website. And we also did a good number of investment in terms of hiring the necessary data scientists, data engineers, and people who can help us encode data for citizens who might need help encoding their data. And the main reason behind that is we're trying to target a developing country and therefore rather poor people in a developing country. So there's a high chance that a lot of their medical records are still not properly documented. So this is something that we really wanted to invest in for this initiative. And since we're also generating insights from our data, we also decided to do some investing in AI algorithm development. So that's the reason why costs were a little high in the first few years. But when the actual execution is in year 3 or 2025, we actually start to see revenues already. And at this point, the number of stakeholders that we've reached is only the start of what we could reach once we've established our foothold in terms of really onboarding the different Indonesians into our platform.
Thank you. I'll pass on to the other judges.
Hi, everyone. I would like to understand a little bit more about the subscription fee that you mentioned. Would you mind to go back to the slide and share with us a little bit more around, like when you talk about the $60, $75, are you talking about a monthly subscription ideally? And then is that in US dollars? And how does it work?
Okay, sure. So for the subscription fees, we're charging $60 monthly for healthcare companies. And then for cold chain logistics, we're charging them $75 monthly to avail for our blockchain services.
Okay, and have you calculated like how many subscribers require in order to get like what you need to in terms of the revenue?
Yeah. So in our first year of execution for our cold chain logistics, which is one of our bigger revenue drivers, we're actually expecting that we'll be able to reach around 75 cold chain logistics company. And this is because cold chain logistics is really gaining traction in Indonesia. So that's one of our reasons to believe. And then we're actually charging for their sensors as well. So overall, we're charging them both sensor fees and subscription fees. And yes.
Okay, so 75 companies with the $75 per month. Is that like what we are going to get, right? Okay,
Yes.
so which led to like roughly 43,000 US dollars. Is that from a monthly basis? Do you think it is sufficient to run it to sustain what you have proposed here?
Yes. All right. So we acknowledge that in the first 2 years of our execution, there's still negative revenues. As mentioned, there is a heavy investment cost involved in getting the information of the Indonesian citizens and onboarding them onto our platform, especially given the target segment that they're focusing on, which are people whose health records are likely not well documented. So that's the reason why there's high cost. But eventually, once we've helped these people transition and onboard onto our platform, we expect that revenues to grow more exponentially since we'll be able to reach more stakeholders as well. And this is also the reason why we wanted to work closely with the government through a PPP so that hopefully we'll get some subsidy, since this also works in the favor of the government, since they have better visibility and traceability of the health conditions of their citizens, especially those who might not have access to private healthcare.
May I know like which part like show the subsidies here that like you indicate from the government in this slide?
All right. So the subsidies are mainly shown in the infrastructure segment, where we're asking at least $2.5 million from the Indonesian government for our collaboration.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
May I know what exactly is the needle mover of your business model?
So the main drivers of our business model are two main things. So first would be the healthcare reporting or the records, and secondly would be the cold chain logistics. So just to quickly delve into that, first is the healthcare records. So as mentioned, we'll be able to generate insights that can be helpful for private entities and the government. And why we believe this is the main driver is there's also a lot of potential use cases in the future. So for example, insurance companies can now have a better visibility of the health records of patients who don't have access to private healthcare before. And so that's one of the main drivers that we are looking into. And second is cold chain logistics. So why we believe this is a main driver is cold chain logistics is quickly growing in Indonesia, and actually it has a CAGR of around 10% until 2028, given the different trends of needing cold chain logistics, including pharmacy.
Additionally to that point on our health records, there is a big push with generative AI right now, going for prescriptive medicines or patient-specific medicines. And the key driver for that is the data needed from health records, from wide analysis of health records, and this is what we can provide. So down the line, we see that there's potential larger segment in terms of the customers that we can actually capture.
Sorry, what exactly is your number one risk factor and how you mitigate the risk?
Given that this activity is actually a public-private partnership, the largest risk that we are facing is that the government will not be willing to agree with the terms that we have specifically for this venture. If it's in terms of the subsidy that we're providing, we're mitigating that by having external debt to finance some of our investments. But if the government really does not have reason to believe that they would need to partner, we do have some alternatives, which my teammate could share.
So for our alternatives, we already considered based on the market analysis that we did that Thailand would be the second best option for Zulik to penetrate. However, the take on improving healthcare system for Thailand is completely different in comparison to Indonesia, given that Thailand has been one of the main drivers of universal healthcare system in Southeast Asia. So for this market, we are actually trying to take on a position of supplementing and pushing further their universal healthcare system. And once we have achieved success in this market, we want to create or publish a case study showing our social impact to the improvement of the public healthcare system in this country and show it to other countries as well, so that they have reason to believe that universal healthcare system is truly attainable, but also with Zulig.
So we did prepare for this worst case scenario, but we also have even preventative mitigants before that it comes to that. So for example, we're creating a specific team who specializes in Indonesian culture and in the Indonesian government who can facilitate those negotiations to increase our chances. And of course, we're looking at the synergies between the Indonesian government's healthcare goals and our own value proposition.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the judges? We still have a bit over 2 minutes. No from Daniel, no from Brian. Christy, you have a final question for them? Also no. Okay, well, thank you then very much, team Ateneo de Manila University, for your presentation and your excellent Q&A.